Will the audience please rise? I thought he had it on. Good morning, brothers and sisters. I hope everyone can hear. My name is Brother Carter. I'm the second counselor in the bishopric of the Spanish Fork Second Ward. Would like to thank sorry, I am so nervous. This is my first time. Patricia Stedman for the prelude music. We'll have Sherilyn Lowe be the chorister, his daughter-in-law. Family prayer was given by Matthew Lowe, as you all know. Our opening song will be hymn number 301, I Am a Child of God. And we'll then have the opening prayer by Jennifer Lowe, daughter-in-law. We'll go to that point. I am a child of God, and He stands with you, has given me an earthly home, with parents kind and dear. Lead me, guide me, walk beside me, help me find the way. Teach me all that I must do to live with you someday. I am a child of God, and so my needs are great. Help me to understand His voice before it grows too late. Lead me, guide me, walk beside me, help me find the way. Teach me all that I must do to live with Him someday. I am a child of God, rich blessings are restored. If I love you through His truth, I'll live with Him once more. Lead me, guide me, walk beside me, help me find the way. Teach me all that I must do to live with you someday. Our dear Father in heaven, Father, as we come before Thee this day to honor this great man who is such a big part of our lives, we ask Thee to please have a spirit of comfort for those who are missing their dad and grandpa and all the other wonderful things that he was to so many people. Please have Thy spirit to always be with us. We say these things in Jesus Christ's name. Amen. We'll now have the life sketch from Sherry Hunt.
daughter, and then we'll have a musical selection, Grandpa, by Mackenzie Lowe, granddaughter, and then we'll have uh, Speaker Lynn Lowe, his brother, and Speaker Allan Lowe, his son. We'll go up to that point.
Douglas Allan Lowe, 81, passed away July 13th, 2020, at his home in Spanish Fork, Utah. Surrounded by all of his loving family, he is our beloved dad, grandpa, and great grandpa, whom we will deeply miss until we meet again. We are comforted to know that he is once again with his sweetheart Linda after only 5 months apart. Doug was born August 27th, 1938 in Springville, Utah, to Earl Franklin Lowe and Jessie Marlene Snow Lowe. He grew up in Springville, attending schools there and graduating from Springville High School. He married Linda Lee Phipps on July 10th, 1957, in Spanish Fork, Utah. They were later sealed in the Salt Lake City Temple in November of 1958. Together they have 8 children. He taught his children a strong and active work ethic. He was employed by Pacific State Steel for many years, while additionally working as a roofer as a side job. Doug was always busy with gardening and is an excellent hunter of wild asparagus. He enjoyed painting, drawing, fishing, hunting, and camping, especially if his kids and grandkids were involved. He adored his family.
Doug is a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. He has served as counselor in the bishopric, high priest, group leader, and served a mission with his wife Linda at the bishop's storehouse. He was a conscientious home teacher. In earlier years, he faithfully labored many hours at the church farm. He was happy when he was serving others, which he did so often. He is survived by his children, Allan and Marie Lowe, Shelley, Kent Erickson, Curtis and Gretchen Lowe, Ron and Sherilyn Lowe, Mark and Sabrina Lowe, Sherry and Darren Hunt, Matthew and Jennifer Lowe, and Kara and Cody Nielsen. Also survived by 36 grandchildren, 43 great-grandchildren, and 5 great-great-grandchildren. In addition, he is survived by siblings Lynn, Peggy Lowe, Jim Lowe, and Russell Lowe. Doug is preceded in death by his wife, Linda, his sisters, Laurel and Carol, and his brother, Richard, as well as a grandson, Jason Churchill, and a great-granddaughter, Jordan Erickson. The family would like to thank Maple Creek Hospice for their loving care of our father. Grandpa, tell me about the good old days. Sometimes it feels like this year's gone crazy. And Grandpa, take me back to yesterday when the line between right and wrong didn't seem so hazy. Lovers really fall in love to stay and stand beside each other come one day. Was a promise really something people care, not just something they would say? and then forget. Families really bow their heads to pray. Daddies really never go away. Oh, Grandpa, tell me about the good old days. And Grandpa, everything is changing fast. We call it progress, but I just don't know. And Grandpa, let's wander back into the past and paint me a picture of long ago. When lovers really fall in love to say and stand beside each other, come what may. Was a promise really something people kept, not just something they would say and then forget? Did families really bow their heads to pray? Did daddies really never go away? Oh, Grandpa, tell me about the good old days. Oh, Grandpa, tell me about the good old days.
I'm going to relate just a few experiences, just touch on them a little bit. If you want to know more, you know where to come. One of the first recollections I have, we lived at 707 South, 100 East in Springville. It was a 2-room house. Of course, there was plenty of room for, we were only 5 kids at the time. But we got along quite well. One of the things that comes to mind was when Doug and I were alone in the house. Jim hadn't been born yet. And we managed to climb to the top of the kitchen cupboard and take out a few special pills that were available to certain people at certain times. Now that you think you got it, let me tell you, they were cod liver oil pills used in the winter time when you didn't get enough sunshine to get the vitamin D and the things that you needed. I remember crawling out the bedroom window with Doug and him falling. It didn't seem like that far to me, but I guess it was about a 6-foot drop. I remember climbing up on the car, especially right after deer season when a nice big 3 or 4 point buck had been brought home, strung up on the edge of the house. We played Superman, among other things. We had a cat, a very loving female cat, and we had a dog. The dog was named Rusty. He disappeared one day, and we saw it a few months later, and then it disappeared again. We never did see it the second time. It was a very good dog, and a Cocker Spaniel, nice, friendly, but it was old. The female cat had a suitor. It happened to be a wild cat. It lived in the mountains. but it came down and visited every once in a while. It had an attitude too. Any dog got in its way, it let it know that it was in his territory. We had wars as we were growing up after we moved down to the old home. Now, you can't imagine, but I imagine a few of you have been told a little bit about some of the wars. We chose sides sometimes. Sometimes we had certain groups that would always be on the other side. And we would work out battle plans, and they could extend for several miles out into the fields, down toward the lake, over by Spanish Fork sometimes. We played games. One of them was Relivio. Anybody hear that name? Anybody know what it means or how it's played? How about Run My Sheepy Run? Can you imagine two groups of up to 20 in a group playing Find Me If You Can, essentially? Covering, well, we were quite often up on the foothills. That's several miles. So sheep that had the bell could not go more than 5 minutes before they rang the bell. And if they could be caught, then it was a game over. Kick the can. There's a lot of them. Can you imagine playing kick the can in the middle of the night? No flashlights? How about running head first over a lawnmower? Head first. Lots of fun things that we did. Didn't know that they were so dangerous, but hey, we did what we did. Got our first bicycle. Of course, that was under the control of the oldest brother. We had to have his permission in order to try and ride it. But eventually we had our own bicycles, and we'd take them on a little trip. All of you know where Kelly's Grove is? We'd ride up there, go up to do some fishing on our bicycles. Of course, one time Doug wasn't paying close attention and found his arms and face full of gravel, went right over the handlebars. Went fishing the first time I can remember. My dad took us up Hobble Creek. Now, a few of you know where Brookside is. The creek used to run right through that part of town, but at that time had willows all along the banks. Caught my first fish there in a place that I wouldn't put somebody if I didn't like them. But my dad said if I got in this place that was really difficult to reach, that I'd catch a fish, and I did. So, hey, it was good. We had games that we played. We had things that we did that were good, and some things that, might have a little bit of question to them. Anybody know how to throw an apple over a block? We knew how. We could clear the Jefferson School, 2-story building, with an apple. If you chose the right kind of stick to use on the end of it. We knew how to play. There was some TV shows. One of them was called Lash LaRue. He carried a horsewhip. Hey, Weeping Willow. That will do the job. Lots of fun and interesting things that we did. Learned how to do things together. We started working, I remember I was 7 years old, and I could climb a ladder with a whole shingle on my shoulder. We learned how to weed. Can you imagine? We worked at a number of different places. I'll mention just a couple. A floral, where we got as much as 25 cents an hour to pull all the weeds out of the carnations that were growing and the other flowers. Had to do it right, or you didn't get paid. We could set between the two of us 6 lanes of bowling, league style. Now, if any of you have any clue what that means, your life is in danger. All the pins had to be hand set. You had to pick them up and physically put them in. You had to get the ball and put it in the return. Hopefully before some guy threw a second ball that he wasn't supposed to. Cleared any pins that were still there, including yours. We enjoyed school sometimes. I'm sure a few of you have heard of him being tossed out of a 3rd-story window by an angry teacher. Question was, how'd they get a 3rd story on a 2-story building? And her class was on the bottom floor, by the way. Interesting things. We had some great times. We did a lot of things together. And we grew up together. Enjoyed each other's company most all the time. We buried treasure. I know where some of that treasure was buried. I doubt that it's there now. Because people have such things as metal detectors. They can go find things that you hid. But we buried things in a number of places. We learned how to crawl into very difficult places. Everyone knows where the underpasses are there in Springville. Can you imagine crawling through the pipes across under the railroad tracks? Can you imagine doing it and then they turn the irrigation water on? Interesting things, interesting people, interesting times. Our older brother often liked to try and get us to fight with the threat of, if you don't, I'll beat you both. And occasionally he had to. I remember the first time my nose spread out all across my face because I wouldn't start fighting with my closest brother. We enjoyed fishing. We enjoyed a lot of things together. When we got to go hunting, when we got to do things. Get together with the family. Get together as a family. Be a family. Don't let things get in the way just because you have a little bad time. Consider that everyone has a bad day. Some just have every day. Some people have a bad attitude. We don't understand always why. If they were in our shoes, would they have the same questions, the same feelings we do? Or would we find out, hey, things might not have been the way we thought they were if we could step in their shoes? Doug tried to do that. Doug tried to understand how people were and empathize with them. He had a lot of help. That was your mom. Sometimes she had to get him kind of straightened back up into the way that he would have wanted to be. Got a good family? Keep it a good family. I say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Well, here we go again. no talk. Couple of notes. I tried to think of some fun stories to tell about Dad, but I think he blocked those from my mind. So literally, I couldn't think of anything. Maybe tomorrow. If you want to hear the fun stories, you'll have to catch me around a campfire and I'll let them rip. Yeah, like I said, I don't have much planned here, so I will read a little something Marie wrote. She said, "When I met Mom and Dad Lowe, I knew how caring and kind they were. Dad was one of the nicest people besides their son, my husband, Allan." That's stretching it. But we came home after some errands and pulled into the driveway, and there was a big, beautiful well that he built for us, and I believe for all his kids. I love it and try to have pretty flowers in it each year. It makes me think of him. He would come fishing in the creek behind our house and bring me fish that would be all cleaned and ready to eat, knowing how much I liked it. I love them so much. Thank you, Dad and Mom Lowe. I love you. I will love and miss you so much. Love, Marie. I know I'm speaking to Dad's family, so you already know all this. But first of all, he loved you dearly. Dad was a very humble man, always doing. Okay, squeeze my thumb. He was always doing things for other people, and you rarely knew what Dad needed because he didn't tell you. Christmas time would come, you'd say, "Dad, what do you need?" "Socks. I need socks." It was always socks. You'd go look in his room and he'd have drawers full of socks. He would tell you socks. No, he spent most of his time thinking about what his kids needed. He worked hard, worked at the pipe plant for a lot of years, would come home, he'd go right back to work on a roof, or he'd go to work at the church, doing something there, or a neighbor could need something done, or with 8 kids, how much time did he have to stop? He was a hard-working man. I was the oldest of 8 kids. There wasn't a lot of money to go around, but we always had enough. But if there was something else that I needed, he couldn't just hand over money. So he put a roofing hatchet in my hand. And he taught me how to work. I spent a lot of time working with my dad. A lot of time playing with him. We all did camping, fishing, family gatherings. If his kids were there, he was happy. You can't speak of my dad without talking about my mom. He loved her dearly. He told us it wouldn't be long after she left that he would go. He knew. He still had a little bit of work to do. He made me some promises after Mom left. Stuck around for those. Wanted to make sure his kids were good. And it was time for him to go. Um, oh. My dad was my rock. He was always there for me. When I was young, when I was older, he was always there. He was my anchor in the storm. And I think he was that for most of us. I feel like I'm adrift. One thing I wanted to bring up, and my wife, Marie, she brought this up, has to do with the well. I've been thinking about it for several days. There was a country song from an artist that I really, really enjoy. His name's Don Williams. That doesn't surprise anybody. Let me see if I can pull it up. There's some lyrics to one of his songs. The song always meant something to me, but I didn't know why. And I think I know now. It was a song he sang called One Good Well. And I won't sing it to you. I'll spare you that. But I want to read a few lines from it because it really struck a chord to me. It says, all you need to really succeed in life is one good well. It takes one good well, deep and ever flowing. It takes one good well to draw from night and day. Pure and fine, it's yours and mine, and it's always enough. We got one good well overflowing with everlasting love. Dad spent his whole life digging that well. And him and Mom filled it. It's overflowing, ever flowing. They taught us the gospel. It's in that well. They taught us how to treat each other, how to love each other. They taught us how to work. Everything we needed to know in life is in that well. And we can draw from that day and night. He's not here, Mom's not here, but they left us that well. And he physically built us all a well. All of the kids got one. Big, beautiful well. We've all got it in our yards. It's a symbol to me. So I'll draw from that well, and I think we all will. In closing, I'd just like to reiterate, he loved you with all of his heart. Dad left nothing on the table. He gave everything he had. Right up till the day he died. He gave more than I knew he had. But when he left this life, there was nothing left to give. And I just want to say, I love you, Dad. We all love you.
Thank you. I was about to call you a thief, but I didn't think I'd get away with that. That was wonderful. I have to sit and stare at the outlet down here so I don't watch everybody crying because I know I'll start to cry. We'll now have a musical selection, I Feel My Savior's Love, by Jessica Hovard, which is granddaughter, on the viola, and Jacob Hovard, grandson, on the violin, after which we'll have Curtis Lowe, son, and Shelly Erickson, daughter, speak. And then I'll have some closing remarks after that. Just don't steal this paper, please.
They make violins in the shape of accordions nowadays. No, we made a last minute change, so that's why it says violin on the program.
Well, hello. I really loved my dad. The first memories I have of my dad were when I was very young, like a 1 year old. I was at a bus stop up in Willard. My mother was holding me, and we were sending him off on a bus. I don't know where to. A 1 year old wouldn't understand that part. But I remember him waving to me goodbye, and I reached up and waved with my fingers, and he waved back to me with my fingers. And I really remember that of him, that he would just support the way I do things and not try to force me to do it any other way. The next thing I remember was, I could probably believe I was maybe 1 or 2. We went to, I think, a state fair, and this was very memorable. My mom was holding me, and we were watching a jetpack flying off. A person with a jetpack, and I remember it was so loud, and my dad reached up and covered my ears. Enough for the, well, I guess there's still some early memories, but the things I remember about him are the many hunting, fishing, and camping trips, as most of us in the family remember. He taught us to fish. I remember him being with me when I caught my first fish, and I was scared of it. He had to kind of help me out with it. Hunting. He loved to go hunting with all of us boys, and probably even some of the girls came along. I just loved being invited along. I didn't really like the experience that much, but I went along with him many, many times. The things I didn't like about it was waking up at 4 in the morning to get ready. That's just too early for a preteen. I hated standing motionless in the freezing snow. And I'm sure I moved around a little bit too much for him, scaring away all the deer. I remember things I remember about that, even though I hated it. I remember the sun coming up and watching the sun just inch along the valley floor. It seemed to take forever to get to my cold feet. These cards kind of stick together. He and Mom both supported us in our sports and our hobbies through school. I don't know if you'd consider this a sport, but I was a very young swimmer. I don't remember this, but we were at Strawberry and probably just fishing. And Mom happened to turn her head and notice me just walking out in the water, going with my head just going under. Dad come running to my rescue, and it was just an experience for me. I wasn't crying or anything. O'Brien's trailer court. I was probably 3 years old there, and I got out on the diving board without them knowing about it. Dad rushed over and got under the diving board, and I jumped into him. There was also some steps at that pool. Pretty big for a 3-year-old. And I jumped down to one step and was about to here. Decided to go for another one, and I was right to here. And Dad wasn't anywhere near me at the time, but I just stood there and raised my hand above the water, just waiting for him to come pick me up. Then he did. There are many high school sports that I participated in, and I remember both mom and dad being very supportive, coming out to whatever they could. Most of the home games and stuff like that, but occasionally some of the important ones that were away. I felt very included at that point. I wanted to talk a little bit about work ethic. The man was the master at that. He worked for most of my life, Pacific States Pipe, or pipe plant as we call it. Him being so dedicated, waking up around 4 a.m. in the morning. I remember many of those occasions. I got to go back to sleep, but mom would get up and make him breakfast and a lunch. But he would get up and work every day without complaints. Roofing. Here's where I got to be a little bit involved. This is where he taught his boys and Shelley life lessons about work ethics. He taught us to do great work, even at the cost of sometimes having to tear a roof down a ways to make things right. He taught us by example to be honest in our dealings, and he taught us always to work hard. This is more what my kids and my wife remember about my dad. My wife and I have had troubles in our relationships, and Dad never took sides. He was always very supportive of both of us. And I very much appreciate him for that. And this is where I, as a parent, feel that I failed. I should have gotten my kids down here more often to visit with Grandpa, to get to know him better, with their Grandpa and Grandma. But what they remember most, as well as many people here, is the princess kisses. Even Brian. And I didn't go for more details on that one. Mackenzie feels hers was extra special because she always wore long sleeves, and Grandpa had to sit there and roll them up and take his time with the princess kisses. Mackenzie also remembers a particular time with Grandpa's incessant snoring. With Mom only days away from her death herself, and Dad sleeping by her, snoring. Mom woke up just long enough to say, "Shut up, Doug," and went back to sleep. Hillary remembers that her grandpa was always so happy to see them, and he was always so positive, no matter how long it had been since they had last seen them. Now, what I remember most about my dad, the thing that stood out the most, is I remember him always honoring his priesthood. He was always helping others. He was always doing his home teaching, his church duties, respecting and honoring his wife, respecting and honoring his children. Many, many times he would be asked to give a blessing, and was always willing to go out and give blessings, and give blessings to his own children and grandchildren. One that truly changed my life was when I was 10 years old. I was going through a bunch of pains and problems and got put in the hospital. And my dad and my grandpa came and gave me a blessing, and it almost immediately took away all the problems, fast enough that the doctors couldn't diagnose what I had. In closing, I'd like to say my dad lived a truly remarkable life. He was loved by all. My dad was truly loved and will always be loved through eternity. I love you, Dad. Enjoy the afterlife, and I'll meet you soon. I say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
I just want to say, Curtis, not too soon. And here you thought you were going to get off easy. Oh, what can I say that hasn't already been said? So before I start this, see, I'm even adding more. I just want to say that both Mom and Dad was so loving and so giving and so caring that even though I took in hundreds of children, literally more than 350, they loved each and every one of them and their families if they ever met them. And that right there says volumes about my dad. My friends, Patricia, she was there for a lot of the time that I spent with Mom and Dad over the past 2 years. And she would come as a nurse and a good friend to spend time with them, to help them with physical therapy and just to spend time. And my Mom and Dad appreciated that so much. You'll never know just how much. And yes, they all got princess kisses. Okay, I'm going to start off with Denise. She's actually Seth's birth grandma. And she's really special to us. Dad thought of her as family as much. She said, "I'm so proud that Dad let me call him Dad and treated me with kindness and respect. He could heal me with the touch of a hand or even a word or two. I never knew just how tall he was, but he seemed to me that he was 10 feet tall." Chris didn't give this to me, but I read it online, and I loved it so much that I'm going to share it. First of all, he was asking for prayers. Because he said, "So as I sit here in an empty house, I'm reflecting on the life of one of the greatest men I have ever known. Yesterday, I lost my dear Pappy. To be honest, it's been the hardest 24 hours of my life. It's been extremely difficult to function without thoughts and memories popping up of the times me and my grandpa spent together, whether it be fishing, hunting, camping, or him becoming my fiance. Long story, and you do need to track him down to hear this because it's worth it. No matter what I try, it's all I can think about. Pappy, I'm going to miss you so." He swore here, so I'm not going to say that. "Much. I already do. I know you with Grandma, and what an awesome experience it must have been to be reunited with the love of your life. Please tell Grandma hi for me. I'm so happy that you're out of pain, have your eyesight back, and get to see all of your family that you have missed for many years. I love you and can't wait to hug your neck again. Find that heavenly buck and shoot him for me. I can't wait to sit around the fire and hear all about it. I love you, Pappy, till we meet again." His granddaughter, Kim,
out in Alabama. She wrote something as well online, and I kind of snagged it. My grandpa passed away this morning, and I don't even have the words to describe the sadness my heart is feeling now. The love of my grandpa was a treasure that can never be forgotten. He was a man who had smiles to brighten your days. He was the giver of the best princess kisses for his princesses. He was patient and kind. He had a love that was never ending. He was no ordinary man. He was special. He was my grandpa. And I'm proud and blessed to have been his granddaughter. I love you, Grandpa, always and forever. And why am I not wearing these? Oh my goodness. Okay, this is from his grandson, Caden. After I got home from my mission, I had a strong desire to try new things. Sammy had recently picked up fishing and really enjoyed it, so I thought I would give it a try. We went one time together and we caught a carp. The problem was we didn't know it was a carp, so we took our trophy fish home. We decided we should go with someone who knew what they were doing, so we asked Grandpa to take us and show us the ropes. He said yes without any hesitation. I felt we were in good hands after hearing his fishing stories. We got up early one morning and headed up to Schofield. We got all set up, and he started teaching us what to do. Well, Sammy caught on quickly and started catching trout left and right. I, on the other hand, don't think I caught a single one. It was amazing to have Grandpa teach us something he loved to do so much. We really had a lot of fun and enjoyed spending time with him. Well, that changed very fast. I was trying my hardest to not let my little sister outdo me, but in doing so, I somehow lost my reel as I was casting my line out. To this day, I don't even know how I did it, but all I know is that I cast it, and the next thing I know, my reel was flying through the air and into the water. At least I still had the pole in my hands. I'm pretty sure Grandpa had never seen anything quite like that, but he thought it was hilarious. Needless to say, my little sister outfished me that day, and I went home without a reel. It's a memory I will cherish for the rest of my life. This is from Ashley. She shared two memories. The best couple of memories I have of Grandpa. I remember when my little teeth would start to wiggle, but not quite enough to fall out. Mom would put me in the car and go straight to Grandma and Grandpa's house so we could use Grandpa's magic tweezers. Sometimes I would cry, sometimes I wouldn't. No matter what my mood was, Grandpa always knew how to combat it. He sometimes would even make it. He wouldn't even make it 3. I remember that. When counting, I could never feel him yank my tooth out, and I never knew how he could always make it feel okay and stop me from hurting or being scared. I know that's because he was. He always had the perfect jokes or sayings that made me feel safe and always will. Next one is I wasn't very old and can't remember the stories he told, but I remember being gathered in the front room with at least 20 other people. We were practically sitting on each other, knowing that no one wanted to miss the moment. Grandpa shared many hilarious stories that had us on the floor crying. He also shared stories about his past that weren't so funny, but helped us know the hardships he had been through. Many hours went by, and I don't think anyone stopped laughing until we left the house to go home. He really was the best storyteller. He really was. All right, here we go. Okay, this one right here is what Ron gave me. Some memories of my father. He was one of the strongest men I knew. I remember him lying on his back with his hands above his head, and each of his children taking a turn standing on his hands as he would lift us into the air. I think Sherry said that was called elevator. Yeah. Well, he used to put us on his feet and flip us. So that was, and I think at one point the 3 older of us wanted to join the circus. Is that true? Anyway, we thought we were pretty cool. It seems to go on for a long time. It was a lot of fun for us, and I'm sure it was a workout for him. He was one of the most patient men I knew. He loved to go out with family on fishing and hunting trips. I would fish a spot on the stream and move on. He would stay put. I was sure that if I did not catch something in the first few minutes, the fish must not be home or hungry. I would come back a while later to find him still there with several fish that I evidently didn't have the patience to catch. I can recall many times him standing in the snow during deer hunting trips for what seemed like an eternity to me. My feet would be freezing, and yet he would stand still and strong like the mountains themselves, as if the cold had no effect on him. Dad was a craftsman. He had an eye for detail, a true artist in many aspects. He could draw, and he drew very well. His artistic side expressed itself in all his projects. He was never ashamed to put his name on the work he did. Dad believed in working hard and taught me that doing a job well was important. When you gave your word to do something, you kept your promise. I recall him getting up early in the morning to go to work, and then he would come home and work there until late at night. I never knew how he could keep going on the amount of sleep he would get each night. One of the biggest lessons my father taught me was the power of the priesthood. He was there whenever we needed him with the priesthood blessing. One example stands out to me more than others. I was playing baseball and was having difficulty at bat. I had not hit the ball in several games. I came home and strung up a ball using a rope tied to a limb in our tree. I practiced many hours just trying to improve. Several days passed and I was nervous for the next game. As I put on my uniform and headed out the door for my game, I found my father waiting on the porch. He stopped me and asked me if I was ready. I told him that I hoped so. He then asked me if I would like a blessing. I looked at him and replied, "Is that allowed?" He said, "Yes." I told him I would like that. I still remember some of his words today. He told me that I would be able to focus on and see the ball, and that I would be able to do my best. I can still remember watching those pitches and seeing the threads of the ball as it came towards me. That night, my batting struggles ended. I went on to have a season with a batting average over 600. He taught me that the priesthood is real and can bless our lives. My father served others and taught me that happiness comes in serving others. I recall him asking me often to help him give blessings to members of the branch when he was in the branch presidency. He did not wait for them to ask him for a blessing. He would ask them if they would like one. And as I recall, he was this way much of his life, always giving, always looking for a way to bless others. He was a great example of how the priesthood of God should be. I love you, Pops. Thank you for your example and being a strong man of God. I will remember the lessons you attempted to instill in me and continue the legacy you have left as well as I know. Oh my goodness. I'm going to lower this a little. I feel like I'm trying to stand on my tippy toes. This one right here. Before I start Sherry's, I just want to say that I had written my talk out, well, kind of did bullet points, like a lot of them. And as some of these were coming in, I realized that there was going to be a lot of repeats because there are some things that are unique to me, but my dad loved us all and tried to instill each of these things in each one of us. So that's why you're going to hear probably some repeats. I don't think you'll mind because they're from different perspectives. But anyway, what I was going to say is I got up at 3:00 in the morning and I started to write out just everything that was going in my head. You know, I had my notebook next to the bed, and that next morning Sherry sent me hers, and I cried because she was in my head. And I went down all my bullet points and I thought, you know, now what am I going to do? But you know what? There's so many things that my dad did that, trust me, there's more. Anyway, I'm going to read Sherry's and hopefully I can make it through this because, anyway, sorry. Here's my glasses. This is from Sherry. For the past few days, since Dad passed away, I have had this song, Daddy's Hands, continually running through my head. I love this song. It has made me ponder on the effect that our dad's hands have had on our family's lives. Most of you probably already know, but when my dad was a young boy, he almost lost his right hand in a terrible accident. It was almost completely severed at the wrist, and it was his right hand, by the way. My grandpa begged the doctors to please save his hand. They did all that they could to reattach all of the tendons, but told them that he probably would never be able to use his hand again. Wow, did he prove them wrong? He had such great faith. He worked hard doing his own style of physical therapy, which I know was extremely painful for him. Not only did he regain the use of his hand, but he later became a wonderful artist, a skilled roofer, a steel worker, and a man who would spend his life using those hands to serve others. Some of the things that I will always remember about my wonderful father and the way that he used those strong hands to serve his family and others are. When I was young, he worked so hard for many years on the church farm. And when he worked at the pipe plant, watching him as we would pick him up after work, go to grab his lunchbox that was sitting with all of the others on the grass, knowing that he had a treat for all of us kids waiting inside that lunchbox when we got home. He did this for all 8 of us. We always looked forward to that. We actually named an old barn in Springville Daddy's Lunchbox. It's no longer there, which is sad, but we still say that's where it was. My dad roofed houses for many years. I'm pretty sure all of my brothers and my younger sister all learned to roof from him. Oh yeah, my story's coming up somewhere in here. Many of us kids would ask my dad to give us the magical pressure points when we had a bad headache. They worked every time. If we were ever sick, sad, or just needing some reassurance, Dad was always available to give us a father's blessing. Nothing else like it. Dad was excellent asparagus hunter and would come home with bags of it. He would always find friends and neighbors to share it with. I'm sure many of you have been on the receiving end of that gift. And by the way, Jacob, I'm really jealous. Where are you? Raise your hand. I'm so jealous because he never would tell me where that magic asparagus was. You're the only one he's told. So you need to share. Anyway, we had countless hours of wonderful foot massages from our dad. Dad was a talented artist. He painted oil paintings and drew many portraits. Every time one of his Springville High School class reunions would happen, he would sketch portraits of those classmates who had passed away since the last reunion and gift those portraits to their families. What a wonderful gift. My younger brother Matt has offered to sketch Dad's portrait for his next reunion. How special will that be? One of the most special things to watch was my dad serving my mom, especially in her last year. He would hold her hand or rub her back when she didn't feel well. He was always grabbing her hand to coax her into doing a little jig with him and would sometimes give her a little love tap on the behind. He loves her so much. One of the things our dad will always be known for were his heartfelt and generous princess kisses. He always had a way of making you feel so important and loved. You didn't even have to be one of his daughters or granddaughters to get one of these. He loved to make you feel special. I will always treasure the memory of his princess kisses. As I have been singing the song, Daddy's Hands, over and over in my head, there is one line that seemed to stick out in my mind. It says, Daddy's hands weren't always gentle. And I can honestly say that in all of my memories, I can't ever remember my dad using his hands for anything out of anger. Now, that might be a different story for my other siblings. I was an angel, not. They were a lot naughtier than I was. Whatever, Sherry. Whatever. I will always remember my dad as a very soft-spoken, kind, loving, gentle man who used the second chance of having his hands to bless others. I love you, Dad. Okay, this one's for Matt, and I haven't read this, and he told me he didn't put anything in here mean against me. You did have your chance. So this is the first time me reading this. For Matt, I have many memories of my dad growing up. He always liked being outdoors, whether it was camping, fishing, or hunting. He taught me a proper respect for nature and the world around me. This instilled within me a love for the outdoors as well. My dad also taught me the value of hard work and the enjoyment that comes from a job well done. I remember many hot summers days spent on a rooftop somewhere, replacing the roof. From the times where I fell through the roof to the time I watched him almost slide off a 3-story roof while wearing a medical boot on one foot just to barely get a grip in the left roof. It was always hard work and very hot. But the time I got to spend with him is still something that I cherish to this day. At a young age, I really admired my dad's talent for art and wanted to emulate that in my life. He helped teach me to draw. I saw how he used this talent to bless the lives of others and bring joy into their lives. It also taught me a lot about patience, as it takes a lot of work and time to get things to turn out just right. Even as his sight was starting to deteriorate, he was still drawing portraits for those classmates from school that had passed away. I also get my love for BYU football from my dad. I have so many memories of us listening to or watching the BYU games and sharing in the excitement. I'm going to miss this dearly. I loved giving him high fives whenever a touchdown was scored. My dad also taught me the value of serving others. Sorry. It was an example of that Christ-like love towards others and was always willing to help someone in need. Although I have a little bit harder time with this due to my introverted nature, it is still something I try to push myself to do. You do really well with that, Matt. You really do. You take after Dad that way. Another activity I loved doing with my dad was tinkering. We loved trying to solve complex issues and inventing new ways to solve them. Oh, man. Sorry, my head's so full of snot I can barely think straight. Sorry. Oh my goodness. We love trying to solve complex issues and inventing new ways to solve them. We always love the idea of finding a way to create perpetual motion, but could just never quite get there. Even though we were not successful, we created so many great memories and experiences in the process. I believe this is where much of my curious nature comes from, as well as my love for learning new things. My dad's life was spared so many times in the past, from getting his hand almost completely cut off as a kid, drowning in the ocean, and waking up on the beach, and falling off a roof and breaking his back. He was able to recover from each of these events and prosper. This taught me the value of perseverance and patience. Most of all, I'm going to miss the warm hugs that we gave each other after every visit. I look forward to the day that I can embrace him and my mom once again, never to say goodbye again. I love you. Oh, why do I volunteer for this? That's why I don't wear makeup anymore, you guys. So, okay, this is from Kara. And I haven't read hers either, so, here we go. At least you printed yours big. Some of these are small. Okay. Dad, I have a lot of fond memories of you as I was growing up. Here are just a few of my favorites. I remember when I was very little, the times you would rock me to sleep and sing to me. Oh. You could always put me right to sleep whenever you sang. the Mary Poppins song, Stay Awake. I loved all the times when you would come tuck us kids in at night. We would always ask you for bedtime story. Your stories were the best. All of us kids loved it when you would put us on your shoulders and gallop around the house, making us laugh. Also, the time you would play elevator. Here we go. With this, where you would lie flat on your back and us kids would take turns standing on your hands while you lifted us high in the air. And all the times you would bring home a candy bar for us kids to share in your lunchbox from work. I will always cherish the time you took me fishing, just you and I. You showed me some tips on stream fishing. We had a lot of fun, and it made me feel pretty special to have that one-on-one time with you. I'll also cherish the times when you would split the avocado with me. Secretly, I didn't like them at the time, but I pretended to because I loved how you would always want to split it with me. I love those moments, or just us talking and sharing an avocado. I ended up growing to love them. Dad, thank you always for being there for me when I needed you. You never made me feel as if it was a burden or seemed too busy, even though I'm sure you were. You were always right there for me. Thank you for all the time and hard work you put into helping and teaching Cody and I how to roof our house, plus 7 other houses in our group. There's been many strong windstorms and still no missing shingles. Plus, the memories we made are priceless. Dad, I'm so grateful to you and Mom for raising me up in the gospel and for being such wonderful role models and examples for all of your kids. That's a gift I will always treasure. I am truly grateful for all the wonderful priesthood blessings you were able to offer me. I will never forget the spirit I would feel so strongly as you spoke, and the way I would feel immediately comfort afterwards. I'm really going to miss being able to hear and receive those blessings from you. Thanks for being such a great grandpa to my girls. They love you and will miss you very much. They will always remember and cherish your sweet princess kisses. Avery says she's going to miss sleepovers at your house and being silly with Grandpa. She still talks about the time you put on her little sunglasses and started singing, "If I Were a Rich Man." I am truly grateful for all the times I was able to come and stay with you and help you when you and Mom needed it. I will treasure all the sweet hugs you gave me and silly jigs you would dance from time to time. I'm really going to miss you, Dad. Give Mom a big hug for me and tell her I love her. And like we always say, it's never goodbye. We'll see you later. Love always, Kara. Okay, so a lot of these bullet points that I have here, I might be able to skip over. I don't know. We'll see. I may add to them. So the first one is the apple story that his brother Lynn was saying. He didn't really expound on that, but my dad did tell me a little bit about that. I guess the principal of the school came up to him one day and said, "Hey, we've had a problem. A lot of the windows in this Jefferson school are being broken. Somebody's like flinging apples at the school, and I really need your help. I need your help to kind of keep an eye on the school and make sure that, nobody's throwing apples or doing all this, shenanigans." And of course, Dad kind of knew because, they were the only ones with an apple tree in the whole area. So he knew that it was them, that he was brilliant for asking Grandpa to do that. The other story is about being thrown out the 3rd story window. So anyway, what happened on that, my dad was kind of rebellious. Where did that come from? But the teacher had called his name, and my dad sat there. She called it again, Douglas Lowe, and he just sat there. You're supposed to raise your hand, say here. He didn't want to do that. He just wasn't in the mood. So the 3rd time, she stood right in front of him and said, "Douglas Lowe," and he just sat there. So she took hold of his hair and she stood him up. And with that, he kicked her right in the shin and ran home. Now, when Grandma saw him, she's like, "What? Why are you home?" Well, he had to make up a story quick. And he told her that his teacher had gotten mad at him and thrown him out of the 3rd-story window. So Grandma took his arm and marched him back over that school. And my God, when they walked into the school, first thing Grandma saw was his poor teacher limping with a big hole in her expensive nylons, the big bruise. Anyway, that's all I know of that story. I don't think my dad fared too well that night. Also, when my dad was younger, he got polio, and I'm not sure exactly how old he was when he got polio, but this caused one of his legs to be shorter than the other. I think it was his left leg, if I'm remembering right. And then he liked to tell us the story about the ocean and where he almost drowned. He just remembers going down in the current, and it must have sucked him into the shore or whatever. Allan seems to feel like, would have been fine. I mean, he was stillborn. None of us were, but he thought everything would still be fine. But anyway, whatever. Some of my childhood memories with Dad were piggyback rides. I know that we had home movies. I don't know where they are. I did see the projector in Dad's room. I would love to get those out sometime and maybe watch those. He would take us by the hand too and twirl us around until he was so dizzy I thought he was gonna fall. It's pretty funny. He taught me how to dance by letting me stand on his feet. I remember the daddy-daughter dinner date that I had when I was 12 years old, and my mom had done my hair in this, I'm not kidding, in this huge beehive poof hairdo, and oh my gosh, anyway, he told me I was beautiful and always made me feel so special. He was the best gravy maker. If you ever tasted my dad's gravy, no wonder I love mashed potatoes and gravy so much. He also taught me how to catch night crawlers and took me night crawler hunting all over in our yard. He always included me in activities with the boys. There were so many of them, and they were always going and doing things. I think that he just thought, I should invite Shelley. Well, anyway, so he would take me fishing, and I like to throw rocks. And so I was always tossing rocks into the water. I think he kind of wished that I hadn't come. But I remember I was never really into the fishing poles and all that stuff. I don't know, I would always just grab a long stick and a string and put a hook on it. And of course I baited my own hook because I wasn't afraid of those wiggly worms. And I was always the first one to catch a fish. He did take me hunting. It was for the bow hunt. And I remember it was with me, Allan, and Curtis, I'm pretty sure. And we sat there for hours on end, hours and hours and hours. I thought I was going to die. Seriously, I thought I was going to die. I was thinking in my head, they come out here and sit here all day waiting for what? And then I saw it. This beautiful deer came into view, and I saw my dad raise his bow and pull that arrow back on the string. I looked at him, I looked at that deer, and I yelled, "Run, Bambi, run!" He never took me again. He did try to teach me how to roof. That in itself was, well, I got up on the roof, and it was a shake roof. And I think I must have had OCD as a child because I was doing the very best work that anybody, I swear, I was the best roofer on this planet. I seriously was. And Dad I guess I'd been roofing for a couple of hours, and he came up over the ridge and he looked and he goes, and I'm like, what? I had lined up those lines so perfectly. You know how you're supposed to stagger? No, he had to tear off all the work that I had done. Yeah. Again, that was, I think, the first and only time I went roofing. He attempted to teach me how to drive. And there are many, many, many stories, some which I don't know if he would really want me to repeat, but he swore several times he saw his life flash before his eyes. He was a hard worker, a good provider, and always there for his family. Another memory I remember is it was shortly after Kent and I had met. Kent was going to ask me to marry him, and he wanted to go and talk to my dad, and he wanted to get permission for my hand in marriage. And Dad looked him square in the eyes and said, "Kent, are you sure it's not just gas pains?" What? I remember one Easter, I think we got about a foot of snow. And we had get together all the time for Easter. It was one of Mom's favorites. And they would hide Easter eggs, and the ground was covered in snow. So my dad had this brilliant idea to go out, and we thought he was just out there making snowmen or whatever, but he made snow bunnies. And they had Easter baskets in their arms and stuff, and he had hidden all the eggs throughout. I'm sorry, little kids. The Easter bunny had hidden all the eggs in the yard. So we had green grass and Easter eggs. Anyway, another thing is we bought some land up in Wells Canyon. Most of you may know this. And Mom and Dad wanted very much to be a part of it because they really wanted a place where we could go and spend time as a family. There were a lot of problems with the land, but they didn't care. They still wanted to make it ours. And I remember so many times Dad going up and him and Kurt trying to level off spots, and them coming back with their knuckles and hands just bleeding from trying to do this for the family. I used to work for with Tanya and Dave, and we would do little expos and festivals and stuff like that. And Dad was always the first one to volunteer to come and map out the floors. And let me tell you, that was a lot of work. It was a lot of work. I used to get so tired just watching them map out these floors because it was, like I said, it was a lot of work. And the designs that Tanya would do were, where is she? Do I dare say this? They were crazy designs, but those shows were they were awesome. And I loved them at the time. Anyway, he was just always volunteering, and him and Mom would always help us throughout those shows. And that's always going to be a memory that I'm going to cherish. Dad is a perfect example of Christ-like that I can ever think or even imagine. He was always helping unselfishly and serving others. He was helping ward members move or anything they needed help with. I started a charity called Project Share, and I always had these crazy ideas in my head. And my dad was always the first one, and my mom was always the first one to say, "You should do it. Just do it. Go for it." And we had a old garage that was separate from our house that it was in bad shape, you guys. It was really bad. I think, as Chris was saying, nothing like putting lipstick on a pig, trying to fix that thing up. But they did. Dad spent countless hours over there helping me, and other brothers and my nephew, Chris, spent a lot of time over there with us and helped us get that up and running. And we had at first a clothing closet and a food pantry. And we would try and help families in need in our community. And every year, I think for the past 6 or 7 years, I don't know how many, I've lost track, we would gather food items and hand out food boxes for Thanksgiving and for Christmas for about 25 families that needed it in our community. And Mom and Dad were always a part of that, very much a part of that. And he was always trying to find other ways to serve others. And I've just lost my place. Okay. Dad was a simple man. He was a very simple man. He never complained, even when things got hard. Most of the times you never knew if he was in pain. I mean, you could kind of tell if you could, because his eyes told his story. I mean, if you looked in my dad's eyes, just in this picture that's out there, that's why I love that picture, is because those eyes tell his story. If you look at him long enough, you can just see right into his soul. I love Dad's genuine love for Mom and how he lovingly took care of her. All the tender moments we witnessed, whether it was just simply the way he would look at her and smile, or the silly jigs and little songs he would sing to her. Don't get me wrong, those two would bicker. Oh my goodness, would they bicker. But there was always love there. There was always love there. And I think that kind of helped me to know that moms and dads didn't always have to be perfect and they didn't always have to agree. But they always stayed together and they always worked it out, and they were always so good to us kids, and they would never say anything bad about the other. My dad especially, if he thought that any of us were mad at Mom, he would give us a stern talking to and say, that's my wife, and you don't ever disrespect her. Even if we were sticking up for him, he was sticking up for her. And, that taught me a lot. That taught me a lot. Dad told us that when Mom passed, that he wouldn't be far behind her. I know he was trying to prepare me. But dang it, Dad. I mean, I get it. I get it. He just couldn't imagine his life without Mom in it. And here we are just 5 short months later, laying him to rest beside his sweetheart. I think all of us would agree, none of us would trade that time we spent with Dad. Being with and around family was the most important thing to him. So much so, he wanted to be with all of his children when his time came to join Mom on the other side. I'm going to stop here for just a second because this kind of skips over an important part. Sherry and Kara had decided to take a trip to St. George. And I know Dad would not have wanted them to not go. He would have wanted them to be there and spend that time with their family. And I could hear him saying, you need to go. But they stayed that first night because we weren't sure how long he had left. I had a good feeling that it was going to be okay. And I think they did the second day, and they did. They went and they were able to enjoy a few days in St. George. But on Monday, when they were scheduled to come home, Dad was not doing well at all, and we knew it was going to be real soon, within hours, and they were 3.5, 4 hours away. And we knew that we at least had to let them know that he may not be here when they got back. Well, they just weren't going to have that. They packed their stuff up and they were on the road. And I don't know how fast they were flying down the freeway. I haven't asked, but I'm sure it probably was crazy. Was Sherry driving? It was probably crazy. Sorry, Sherry. Don't give me the stink eye. I remember about halfway, I don't know where they were at, they pulled over because we had started singing to Dad, thinking that it was time, and we wanted to sing to him like we did Mom. We were singing the 2 songs that we sing here, I'm a Child of God and Families Can Be Together Forever. And his oxygen was going down pretty fast. And Sherry and Kara called. And I put the phone up to Dad's ear. And they told him they were trying to get home and that they loved him very much. And just hearing their voice made him fight a little longer, because I know that he wanted them there. He didn't want them to feel bad for not being there. He held on for another 3.5, almost 4 hours. until shortly after Sherry and Kara arrived back from their trip from St. George. What a tender mercy that was for all of us to be there. Dad, we miss you more than words can express. And although our hearts ache to still have you here, we know you're with Mom and countless other loved ones on the other side of the veil. Oh, what a glorious reunion that must be. We are thankful for the plan of salvation and for the knowledge that families can be together forever. Please, give Mom a huge hug for us. We love you both infinity times infinity until we meet again.
Brothers and sisters, I'll keep my remarks short because we're pretty much out of time. But we had to let it go, right? Doug was such a wonderful man. Had the opportunity to work with him and hear of his experience of drowning, and he told me that the last thing that he remembered was asking the Lord for his help. And he says he doesn't know the duration of time, but when he hit the shore, was God helping him, brought the air back to him. He told me about his hand and the trials there and how he had hope that he could get it to work, and he would sit on it day after day to get it to stretch out to where he could work it. And he had a good handshake, really did. He was such a kind, generous man, like y'all said. I don't know where y'all come from, but I just said that. I'm not from back east. I'm from Springville also. So maybe I picked up the drawl from here in Spanish Park. We know that the reunion was a wonderful reunion between him and Linda and his loved ones. If they were standing here today, they'd be arm in arm, smiling. We know they are. They are here. This is such a sweet feeling of love. I want to give you the love of our Bishop Rick, our Bishop. We love you. We love them. They are truly sent from God. We know they're on the right hand of God, and they're his sheep. We know with the atoning sacrifice of Jesus Christ that we all can be together again after we pass. Brothers and sisters, what a joy it was to listen to you talk about him, reminisce and laugh, cry. Like I said, I got a good look at the outlet down here so I wouldn't cry. I'm so soft-hearted, especially when it comes to Prince. After the closing prayer, let's put these on so I can see. Caden Hunt will give us our closing prayer. After that prayer, we'll have pallbearers: Allan Lowe, Curtis Lowe, Ron Lowe, Mark Lowe, Matt Lowe, and Darren Hunt come to the front, and they'll be instructed what to do. Honorary pallbearers are Kent Erickson, Cody Nilsson, all grandsons and all great grandsons. Sorry. We'll commence at the Spanish Fork Cemetery, where we'll have the dedication of the grave, after which we will go down to the Spanish Fork, or not Spanish Fork, the Sunset Park Ward Pavilion. If you don't know where that is, it's the end of Center Street You hit the end of Center Street, take a right, and you'll see the church, and it's to the west side of the church. Thank you for letting me be a part of this. I'll turn the time over to Caden.
Our dear, kind, gracious Heavenly Father, we gather here today as a family to honor and remember our Grandpa Lowe's life. We thank Thee that we were blessed to have a man like him to show us how to serve and love those around us. We thank Thee for the plan of salvation, for the knowledge that we have that we will be together again. Father, we ask that You please comfort those that are in need of comfort. And we ask that You please help us to always remember His example and to love and to serve others around us. Father, at this time, we give Thee thanks for all the things that Thou hast given us and for those that we are blessed with. Please help us remember to take advantage of the time that we have with those around us while we are still here on this earth. Father, we love Thee so very much. We ask for these things in the name of Thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Alder, step to the back of the room and invite everyone else to stand.